All right, welcome everyone to today's episode of the Ari Louis Show here on Israel National Radio Root Sheva. And the show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Louis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me, messiahhour@gmail.com. Of course, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech is upon us. This show is being recorded on Monday night, which will be approximately a day and a half before the speech. When everyone hears it, it may be in the past, but we're going to talk about this now. On the line right now, good friend of mine. He's the author of All-American Karate Champ and a two-time national karate champion in the United States. Back to the program, Paris David Blumenthal. Paris David, how you doing out there?
Well, very good. Thank you for having me back on your show. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be on here.
Absolutely. Pleasure's ours. Let's talk about the speech. I want to first focus on the fact that President Obama seems to be childish in that he wanted to boycott the speech and said that Bibi did not go through proper protocol. Do you believe that he has a leg to stand on, or was this simply a fact of President Obama does not like Bibi, or he doesn't like Israel in general? So just give your thoughts about the whole tension of Bibi speaking in front of Congress.
Well, it sounds like to me there was obvious tension. They don't seem to be on speaking terms right now. And it came to a head where Prime Minister Netanyahu felt that it was a message that he had to convey not only to the Jewish population within the United States, but the rest of the population, because Iran is definitely a threat to the Western world, Europe and the United States, and of course, Israel. So I felt that the cause for Netanyahu was definitely a major cause. It had nothing to do with the elections like everybody's saying and throwing this out. Believe me, he would not have brought down the government if he felt that it was going to hurt his power, because he knew he would no longer be, or potentially not, prime minister. There was a major reason, something behind closed doors made him bring down the government for him to have elections again. It's obvious.
Now, another thing that was very strange was apparently the Democrats in the United States wanted Bibi to speak to them privately, and Bibi said, well, that would cause decisiveness, and he didn't decide to do that. So people are looking at Bibi as representing the Republican Party, if you will, but shouldn't people look at him as representing the Middle East and the needs of the Middle East?
Well, obviously, yeah, the needs of the Middle East and so forth. Look, the Democrats right now are on the coattails of a failed international policy that has brought down the Middle East. And if you don't believe me, just look at Syria, look at Egypt, look at Yemen has just fallen, Lebanon's about to fall, Egypt has already sent troops into Libya. They've already declared Hamas a terrorist organization themselves, because other Western powers are not identifying them as a terrorist organization associated with ISIS, or as Obama calls them, ISIL, or as we call them in Israel, Daesh. There are a lot of workings going on, and obviously the Democrats, the way it seemed like was a bunch of little kids. You got us by the throat, but can you please talk to us privately about this and promise not to say this and not to say that? It was obvious. And Prime Minister Netanyahu made the adult decision not to speak to them privately.
Yeah, I think that was the right move. I think it would be an insult to the Congress to speak to people who are boycotting the congressional speech. I don't think that made a lot of sense. Let's talk about the tensions more. I want to focus more between Obama and Netanyahu. I know that the president sent some people apparently to Israel to try to keep Bibi from being elected again. I mean, have you noticed this in the past? I mean, you cover politics for a long time, that a president of the United States dislikes the Prime Minister of Israel this much. I can't really recall a time it's ever happened, but again, tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know if we can put our finger directly on President Obama. I believe it's also all of his confidants that are behind him, such as Zbigniew Brzezinski, Valerie Jarrett, who may be, some say, the real president of the United States. Remember, she was not born in the United States. She was born in Iran. She lived there for a number of years before moving to the United States, moving to Chicago. She also introduced President Obama to his present wife, Michelle Obama. She also gave him his first job in Chicago at the law firm she worked at, or she was up there, And she also introduced and hired Michelle Obama at the same law firm, and that's how they met each other. So there's a lot of coincidences that arise here, and she's been with him since the 80s, the late 80s to the early 90s. She's groomed him all the way. So now she's what? She's his right-hand woman, you might say, in the White House right now. And she's calling a lot of the shots. She has a big love for Iran. And if you notice, a lot of his policies are thrown that way. I wonder if the influence of Iran has to do with Valerie Jarrett and everybody else, and also it has to be with his mindset. It's like any of us. It's like a birds of a feather flock together. So they all have the same mindset, but I think Valerie Jarrett seems to be pushing Iran to be America's ally, where in January, the third week in January, Russia just signed a pact with Iran to share military secrets and information as well as military equipment. So I don't know what he's going. He's going up the wrong alley and the wrong door. Russia is already allied with Iran.
Wow. Good scary stuff. Again, this is the Ari Louis Show here on Arut Sheva, Israel National Radio, and syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Speaking with Paris David Blumenthal, the author of the book Two-Time American Karate Champ. Now, in that book, you wrote this book about 5 years ago, but you predicted some of the things that are occurring now. Is that correct?
Yes. Actually, the chapter is called Theatrics of Politics, and I name Bill Ayers involved in that. I do it with humor, of course. And I list all the players in there at the time that were important to Obama's background, including George Soros, Zbigniew Brzezinski. I also mention, very interesting, here I'll even read this little excerpt quickly.
Sure.
Then you add Samantha Power as an advisor to Obama from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, who suggests the Palestinian situation can be solved by an invasion of Israel with a massive military force in order to create a Palestinian state, a two-state solution. I mentioned this 5 years ago. Guess where she is right now? Is that a coincidence?
That's pretty strange. If you want to say it's not a coincidence, of course. So, what was it that you saw a particular trend, and then that's why you predicted these things 5 years ago?
Well, it's like anything else. I like to be a person who's always constantly learning something every day, studying and looking at people, knowing people, and history, and which is all about people. People made history. And when you look at a person, an individual that hangs out with particular people, then you say, hey, again, I repeat that, birds of a feather flock together. Ari, I'm sure you don't hang out with bank robbers every day or drug dealers and so forth, God forbid.
Right.
But I'm saying then we would know, and vice versa myself. So I'm just saying it's who we are, is who we hang out with, who we're with on a regular basis. We may know certain bad people, but it doesn't mean that we associate with them. He's associating with very dangerous people, and he has for many years, including being in Reverend Wright's church for over 20 years. And saying that he never heard any anti-Semitic comments. It's almost unheard of. I don't know of anybody who's gone to a synagogue, a church, a mosque, and said, gee, they've never heard the cleric or the rabbi or the priest say anything in over 20 years. I find that hard to believe.
Right. I remember at the time, the apologist for him said, well, we've all sat and in front of a synagogue, in a synagogue, and heard things we didn't like. Okay, maybe that's true, but this was his personal minister, and this was his main church. This wasn't a church he went to one time. This was his church, and he heard him say, gee, damn America, in person, and knew that's what he thought. So that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. I want to go also with the threat of Iran is we've talked about this before. Is President Obama ignoring it because of incompetence, or is he ignoring it out of some malicious thing, or is he confused? So, because it's there. Iran's building up the nuclear capabilities if they haven't had the bomb already. So why is Obama ignoring them, in your opinion?
Well, again, I mentioned this on your last show. Nobody's really a bad person. Everybody means well. But he has a particular ideology. And with this ideology, he has a concept that he believes is true in his head, along with all the people that are advisors to him. And they're all on the same road. They're all in the same boat. Samantha Power, Valerie Jarrett, Zbigniew Brzezinski, and the rest of the players. They truly believe that by taking the United States out from under Israel, or vice versa, that their policy, they've been restricted politically and policy-wise in the Middle East because of Israel. Well, right now we can see that policy was actually very good, and it was the way to go, because we can see what's happened to the Middle East right now. It's on fire. Ale Esh, as they say in Hebrew, it's a big, huge barbecue right now. And unfortunately, heads are being thrown onto the Barbie, with ISIS in charge here in Syria and Iraq, in terms, when I say in charge, creating all this havoc. And if you look at what he's doing towards Iran, it's an ideology that he believes that Iran should be freed upon this concept that Israel has been subjugating them and keeping them down along with the USA policy. It's absolutely not true, but he's still staying upon it. He also believes that the peace in the Middle East is all due to the two-state solution that should be brought about with the Palestinians. We obviously know that all the Arabs don't get along, don't like the Palestinians, and they can care less. That was just used as a major issue, especially during the Cold War, which no longer exists, or now it's starting to exist again because of Obama with Russia. But the Cold War, there was just old policies that had stayed there, and they used to use that as a tool against Israel and the West and the United States. But it doesn't exist anymore. And the Palestinians don't have good governance right now, as we can see. And they're bankrupt. The PA's bankrupt. Hamas is bankrupt. There's no more money. People can't give them any more money. So it's a failed policy. They're going down the wrong road, and it's creating – we're on our way to World War III, unfortunately. We're on the way. I don't like to say that, especially, but it's true. If people don't realize what's going on around us, if he gives Iran the nuclear bomb, they will use it. They will definitely use it.
And that's going to lead to my next question. I understand there's a story. This was on the top headline of the Drudge Report yesterday, taken from a root show, the station, of course, you're listening to right now, that apparently President Obama threatened Benjamin Netanyahu, saying that if we were to strike Iran, he would bomb Israeli planes. I want to know if you think that is an idle threat, or if that's something really the president would do, because that certainly could create World War III even more so. Does Israel fire back? How would they handle that if that were to actually happen? So give us your thoughts on that matter.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about that the other day. This is a policy that was brought upon Israel by the Zbigniew Brzezinski a few years ago, who said that Israeli planes should be bombed if they should make take off and cross the airspace towards Iran. So this is a policy that Obama seems to embrace, because that's one of his advisors again. Again, birds of a feather flock together. So all of this kind of ties in together with who is advising him and what he feels. He feels that Iran is being punished, subjugated, whatever it may be, because of Israel and the USA's past policies. To prevent this from happening, he said he will fire and shoot down Israeli planes in order to maintain his policy of an attempt to make friendship with Iran, which we all know is impossible, especially with the ideology of Iran, with the Shiite and the Ahmadi coming back, the 13th Imam. They want to see destruction so that the Imam can return. And with that kind of mentality and ideology, and I mean, it's scary. And he's handing them the opportunity and the tools to make this happen. And yes, I believe he would shoot down planes, Israeli planes, if he had the opportunity, if he felt that it was going to attack and hurt any of his existing peace plans or negotiations and policies towards Iran. It's not an idle threat. I believe it's a real threat.
That's really scary. I want to know then, how do you think Israel would respond to having their plane shot down by an ally? Would they do anything about it, or would they let it go because it's the United States and it's too big of a country to fight? What would happen?
Well, that's a good question. There's something that people don't realize. In the software of the airplanes, the F-16, especially since and this goes for Turkey, and Turkey has bragged about they changed their software against Israel in case they need to engage in Israel, also another potential enemy. the F-16 of the United States, the software doesn't really enable them to attack Israeli planes because the computer will identify it and not allow a rocket to fire, supposedly, unless they've made some alterations to it. And same with Israel. So that's one little safeguard that's good. But I don't know how Israel just has to do what Menachem Begin did back in I believe it was 1981 to Iraq. He flew the planes low under the radar, UTR, as you might say, under the radar, and he was very successful in that mission, accomplished that mission, which many people were very upset at Israel for it, but in the long run, many behind closed doors said, good going, good show, thank you very much. And he made the right decision about Saddam Hussein, because we know how that worked out. Now, with Iran, it's almost the same identical situation too, except worse, and it's escalated. And then we also have petrol and oil in the Middle East that are at, it's a very tough situation economically for the world, because if Saudi Arabia, and like I mentioned this on the last show, and Iran decide to take out each other's oil fields, it'll wreak havoc on the world's economy and could collapse the whole thing as well. There's a lot on the table right now, and it's like a poker game. And they are right now. Somebody's going to make a call. Somebody's going to call what the cards are, if they're bluffing or not. And if Obama gives them a nuclear bomb, they've got the ace. They're calling the shots.
Again, this is the Ari Louis Show here on the Root Sheva, Israel National Radio, and our guest is Paris David Blumenthal, the author of the book All American Karate Champ. Now, in the last few minutes we have with you, let's talk about a very scary story that apparently President Obama wants to have control over the Internet, or have the FCC regulated, if you will. Tell us if that is a rumor, and if not, what exactly does that all entail?
Well, they said it's actually, from my understanding, it was printed on Fox News February 26th. It says, here's the title: FCC approves sweeping Internet regulation plan. Obama accused of meddling. So it seems to be a done deal. The federal committee, it was on a vote of 3-2, and it was adopted, and it supposedly creates a neutrality plan, which it doesn't. It basically controls the Internet. They can shut it down. They can shut people down from communicating with each other. Maybe this is actually perhaps a prerequisite to some sort of economic collapse. What if there is a war between Iran and Saudi? Will the petrodollar, the U.S. dollar, they call it the petrodollar, collapse under duress, and therefore could create civil unrest in the United States of America, and therefore he needs control over the Internet? Question mark. We'll find out. There are a lot of rumors now, and I'm going to leave this here for people to do their own. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but a lot of people should start to do their own investigation. There's a lot of talks from many various professionals that there may be a Wall Street collapse, very much to what happened in 2008, but a larger one around this year between September and October. Maybe he's getting ready for that. I don't know.
Wow. And also, you spoke of this the last times on my program, that you are of the opinion that he will not leave office and relinquish the presidency in 2016. So would this all be a part of this as well?
It could be. It could be part of the whole thing. I don't know if it's an exact plan, but the situations and circumstances have to arise would definitely click that and put him in the driver's seat for another 2 or 2.5 years. And I remember way back when George Bush had declared war, many people were saying that was his opportunity to stay in office an extra 2.5 years. And that's why I learned about it, was from the Democrats complaining that was what Bush was up to. So maybe self-projection? I don't know. And the Democrats right now are very hot in the collar. They lost the Senate. They lost the House, Congress, the Senate. They're not a bunch of happy campers right now, Ari.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it'll be very interesting, the Prime Minister's speech. Hopefully when everyone hears this episode, it'll be Tuesday morning Israel time, so he'll be speaking later on in the day. Again, our guest this afternoon, Paris David Blumenthal. Tell everyone out there where they can pick up a copy of your book.
Well, I have 2 books out. I have Time to Be Free, 5773, and there's a lot of updated information and so forth. And my original book was All-American Karate Champ, Best-Selling Guide to the Making of a Champion, where I just want people to understand that it doesn't matter if you have gold medals around your neck or if it's karate or football or whatever it may be. It's about victory over self. It's about us being a champion of life, how to overcome diversity, how to overcome the situations of negativity, to be positive and use negativity to create something positive from it. And that's what the book is all about. And then towards the last few chapters, I dedicated to what's going on around us at the time when I was living in the United States and what may hold in the near future. But the major point I was making is that a lot of people were asleep in Germany when Hitler took power. When Mussolini took power in Italy, a lot of the Jews were asleep. And in Europe, completely. Look what's going on in Europe. Look what's going on. The currencies are failing. War is amidst everywhere, in Africa and in the Middle East. Things are almost identical. History is repeating itself, and that's what I knew was going to happen again because I read it, and I saw it happening. And my book right now, everything, I put it into writing. Everything I said would happen is happening today. That was 5 years ago. Not that I'm a prophet or anything else. It's just called 2 words that's a rare commodity today, common sense. So all I can say is for people, yeah, it's a rare commodity. All I can say to people in life today and with these trials and tribulations coming up, walk in like Goliath, but fight like David.
Yeah, well said, indeed. Again, Paris David Blumenthal here on the Ari Louis Show on Israel National Radio. Thanks for being on. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And if you want to send me an email, it's messiahhour@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints in a Jewish country, feel free to do so. And if you'd like to make a financial contribution to the program, you can do so through my PayPal account at israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. Paris David Blumenthal, thank you so much. Be well out there.
My pleasure, and thank you. And anybody who purchases a book from Amazon.com, let us know. It's for the radio. We'll make a donation towards the radio station.
Okay, good deal. All right. Thanks so much. Be well.
Pleasure. Bye.